Well, good morning, everybody, all participants here in Mexico, and good afternoon for the participants logging in from the Netherlands with a 7-hour time difference. It's amazing that everybody's here right now. As you can see, we still have participants pouring in. We have over 100 participants registered, so hopefully they will join us shortly. Welcome to the e-commerce event organized by the Dutch Embassy in Mexico, together with our business support office in Querétaro. As you all know, this event serves to inform companies active in the e-commerce sector and gain insights in the Mexican e-commerce market. And of course, also provide you with possible new business contacts. After a full year of COVID-19, I know everybody has a load of experience in webinars. You're a regular webinar ninjas, so to say. So I think we can all agree it's important to keep it lean and mean and keep a close eye on the clock. We really want to do this within the 2 hours that we've set for this event, followed by matchmaking possibilities afterwards, and have a second session tomorrow. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Maarten. I'm an economic counselor at the embassy. As a moderator, I'm moreover see myself as a facilitator. So I will try to limit my own role during this event to really listen to you, to the experts, and the questions you might have for our experts to make the most out of the 2 days that we have. I do need another minute actually to quickly point out some house rules. As I said, we're going to have a 2-day webinar for 2 hours, followed by matchmaking. We will be using the B2Match platform for the matchmaking options, and for the general session as today we'll be using the Zoom link. The entire webinar will be recorded and we will disseminate it afterwards through our social media, and of course you can use it as well. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will collect them here, and at the end of presentations of all presenters and speakers, we will try to bring them in. And otherwise, there's ample opportunity, of course, also to contact each other through the B2Match platform yourselves. We encourage you to actively engage to make it as interactive as possible. So quickly move on to the webinar itself now. First, I would like to pass the floor to Ambassador Mr. Wilfred Moore on my left. I'm sure he has a very nice welcoming message to all of you. So Wilfred, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maarten. Also from my side, a welcome to this webinar. First of all, I would like to thank my colleagues from the embassy, Maarten and his team, but also from the NBSO in Querétaro for organizing this seminar. I think they did a fantastic job, especially if you look at the number of participants and the lineup of speakers that they have been able to gather. Even before COVID, many consumers were already familiar with buying products online. And also in the B2B market, it became more and more fashionable to do online, let's say, buying. And this trend has only accelerated because of COVID. Digitalization is changing our lives by multiplying business opportunities for companies and by extending the range of products and services available to consumers. And it's my firm belief that this is here to stay. This will not go back to offline only. Many market players in the digital economy act as platforms, and that is radically changing the way consumers behave, and but also companies behave. For example, when was the last time that you bought a flight ticket or booked a hotel, let's say, at a travel agency? This is something which has changed the world already for many years. And this is only one example of the digitalization and the use of, let's say, online possibilities to buy products and services. Mexico, of course, is following this global trend, and it has increased online sales as well, both for consumers and for the business environment. But I think there's still room for improvement. There's still quite a large upside. Buying groceries, clothes, cosmetics, but even electronic equipment is getting pretty normal nowadays. And as I said, Mexico is not, let's say, at the level of developed countries when it comes to online buying, and therefore we see at the embassy an enormous upside, and that triggered us to execute a study on, let's say, the e-commerce market in Mexico. The report is available on the site today, so you can download it if you want. And when drafting this report, we had the tremendous help of the Windheim University of Applied Sciences in Zwolle, under the guidance of Henk Jager. I think he's here today as well. And they helped us a lot to, let's say, to finalize and further enhance the quality of the sector study that we conducted. And secondly, once the study was finished, we decided to organize this 2-day seminar to basically, to share this information that we have gathered on the Mexican market with you. As I said, the organizers, we made a fantastic lineup of qualified speakers who are willing to share their knowledge and experience today with all of you. And it promises to be a very fruitful seminar in my belief. And finally, before going to the first speaker, to the Dutch participants, if you would like to explore further the Mexican market, approach us here at the Embassy in Mexico or the MBSO in Querétaro, and we are willing and able to help you further explore the online market and e-commerce market here in Mexico. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. So I think it's now time to quickly move over to the webinar itself. As you have seen in the program on the platform, and I briefly mentioned it as well, we have 2 days. And the first day today, we intend to focus on the Mexican e-commerce market itself, the potential of it, the pitfalls, the challenges, and also compared to the Netherlands, of course. How are we going to do this? We invited Mexico Business News CEO, Mr. Jeroen Posma, and Mrs. Daniela Orozco from AMVO, the Asociación Mexicana de Ventas Online, to share their first insights with us. And afterwards, their stories will be complemented by experiences in the field. Two great companies who recently entered the Mexican market. It's Adyen and CM.com. I will introduce them later on. But for the next 45 minutes, we are going to listen to Mr. Jeroen Posma and Mrs. Daniela Orozco. Let me quickly introduce Jeroen, and then I'll stop talking. Jeroen has been in Mexico for a long time already. He's the CEO of Mexico Business News. It's one of the most comprehensive sources of first-hand English language business information. And Mexico Business Event is also the country's leading high-level conference organizer. Mexico Business Publishing publishes market-leading interview-based annual reviews of Mexico's 8 main industries. And another thing which is, of course, very important for us, Mr. Jeroen Posma is also one of the founders of Holland House Mexico, who will be addressing us tomorrow as well. So first, please, I'm going to pass the floor to Jeroen. Jeroen, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Maarten. A pleasure. I will not try to give you the ultimate guide to e-commerce in Mexico, because Daniela, who is going to come next, has made the most comprehensive report that you can imagine on e-commerce in Mexico. So apart from her listening to her presentation, I would recommend that you download that document. It's fascinating. Where I would like to start is give a little bit of context, because we often forget where we come from as Dutch people and what our e-commerce market looks like, and Mexicans might not be aware. At the same time, for Dutch people, we often misunderstand the relevance of Mexico in the world. Very good, thank you. So, well, when we talk about Holland, and I'm going to speak a little bit from my personal experience here, e-commerce in Holland is very different from e-commerce in Mexico. One of the great pleasures of buying something online in Holland is that it will be delivered the same day, and actually you don't have to pay for it. When I explain this to Mexican people, they're totally shocked that you can go to what is, let's say, the Mercado Libre or the Amazon of the Netherlands, bol.com, and you buy something. Obviously, a lot of my family lives in Holland. When I need to send a present, I order something, it gets delivered the same day, and I can pay whenever I want, a couple of months or a couple of weeks later. And this is something that sort of shows how advanced we are in e-commerce in the Netherlands. For all of our Mexican participants, the Netherlands is one of the most avid consumers of e-commerce products. So we have a lot of advantage, of course, going for us. We have a small country. We have fantastic logistics. We have internet access everywhere. Practically everyone has a smartphone. Everyone has a bank account. Most people have a credit card. We even created our own payment system to manage online payments. So we sort of know how to do that. The downside is that e-commerce is very developed in the Netherlands. Of course, there's a lot of room for growth, but the room for growth is very different compared with what we are going to be seeing here in Mexico. And in 2020, of course, e-commerce grew a lot in the Netherlands. I don't have the exact number because there are conflicting statistics there, but it definitely was nowhere near the 81% growth that we experienced in Mexico in e-commerce. And just to put these things a little bit into context in terms of what is the real size of these kinds of markets. In the Netherlands, we have 17 million people. In Mexico, we have 126 million people. The Netherlands is a tiny country. We're 42,000 square kilometers. So logistics are easy. Mexico is 47 times bigger, almost 2 million square kilometers. So we're talking about very different challenges to make e-commerce work. And we have e-commerce markets that are not so different in size. In Holland, we're somewhere between 20, $26 billion. In Mexico, we're already at 16 billion. So when you look at the growth rate here, there is a huge opportunity for e-commerce in Mexico, just by looking at the numbers. And many times we might forget what that real opportunity is, because when in Holland you think about Latin America, you're often going to think about many other countries in Latin America. We think about Brazil, we think about Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru. But the only country with a comparable economy is Brazil, with about 1.5 trillion. Then we have Mexico with 1.2 trillion. And then there is a huge gap because Argentina comes in at only 400 million. And then Chile comes in at 300 million, with Colombia and Peru following that. So when we talk about what are the real markets in Latin America, then we should be talking about Brazil and we should be talking about Mexico. And well, we should ask ourselves, should we even talk about Latin America? Because we like to group Mexico with Latin America in the Netherlands, but Mexicans prefer to group themselves in North America, which makes complete sense. You're next to the biggest market in the world here, and also a huge e-commerce market, a huge logistics market. And Mexico is an integral part of North America more than of Latin America. There is USMCA, the new free trade agreement. Mexico is not only a market in its own, it's an opportunity to enter the whole of North America. So how can we go about making all of this happen? So as I was saying before, e-commerce has been growing at a very rapid pace last year. And many innovations that we're seeing in the Mexican market, they already existed for many years in the Netherlands. So one of the e-commerce success stories of the past years, but very much of 2020, is Justo, which is an online supermarket. This is something that I think few people in Mexico are still familiar with. Not so many people do their grocery shopping online if we look at the whole population. But if you would ask people in the Netherlands if they go to the supermarket or shop online, a lot of people will just buy online, and some will buy from your traditional supermarkets, but some will buy from Picnic, which is the Justo of the Netherlands, which is sort of overtaking already the supermarket sector. So we're starting to become a bit more familiar now with the concept of e-commerce. Of course, in Mexico, traditionally, people have bought their travel, as the ambassador was saying before. Yes, when did you last buy your plane ticket or your hotel booking in a travel agency? Well, that is exactly the same situation here in Mexico. But when it comes to all the other elements of e-commerce, Mexico is just taking off, and it's taking off very, very quickly at the moment. So there is a lot of excitement around this market, but there are also some challenges. And well, I will just touch upon them so that some of the other people who will speak later can dive deeper with all the expertise that they have. Could we go to the next slide? I think we just have a small repetition here. Let's go to the next one. Exactly. So, well, COVID has really worked for Mexico, but internet usage is not very high yet. In the Netherlands, we're very close to actually 100% internet coverage. In Mexico, we're at about 65%. So not everyone has access to the internet. And of course, a lot of that access is on cell phones. And most of those cell phones in Mexico are prepaid cell phones. That just gives you an idea of how sophisticated the market is. Fortunately, we've seen in the last years some regulatory reforms that make e-commerce easier. So we're moving in the right direction, and phones, fortunately, are getting cheaper. Most Mexicans do have a smartphone, but unfortunately, in most cases, that is a prepaid smartphone. And then we look at how could people participate in e-commerce. So you need pretty much two things. You need access to the internet, and you need to have means of payment. Well, in the Netherlands, for all of the Mexicans in the webinar today, the banks got together and created a payment platform, and the vast majority of payments, e-commerce transactions, are paid through that platform. This is something that, of course, is not existing in Mexico. And can we go to the next slide? In Mexico, we have very serious challenges when it comes to payments. Maybe one of the biggest challenges, and this is something that that I can speak of also in my personal experience. The only product that we sell online is tickets to our conferences. The problem of those tickets is that they all have the same price and they're relatively expensive. So we have a huge problem with the authorization rate of the payments that we need to transact. This is something that is very uncommon in the Netherlands. If you buy something online in the Netherlands, your payment will go through. I think for many e-commerces in the Netherlands, it's not a big priority to focus on how can we actually receive the money. Here, that is a very big challenge. So a lot of payments are made through cards, where a very small proportion has a credit card. People do have a debit card though. And then there is the problem of trust. So Mexico is a very traditional country where a large proportion of the population is actually working in the informal economy. People don't have a bank account. People live with cash. So that makes life a lot more difficult when it comes to growing your e-commerce market. Can we go to the next one, please? And that means that there's a lot of problems with trust. And I'm going to borrow one slide from the more than 100 that Gabriela has in her research document, which I think is very interesting for us. So you have people who have already had the e-commerce purchasing experience in Mexico, and those who have only bought offline. And those people who are not yet consumers of e-commerce, their number one reason for not buying anything online is because they are afraid of fraud. And that, according to the AMVO survey, 75% of the people who buy offline do not buy online because they're afraid of the risk of fraud. The second reason, and that is 70% of the people, they don't buy online because they don't want to share their bank information online. And then the next step is unfamiliarity with the process. 51% are afraid that they will buy the wrong product or not exactly the product that they were looking to buy. So I think our fellow Dutch from Adyen will give us some more information about this later. But how can you deal, on the one hand, with fraud, with authorization rates from a technical point of view? And on the other hand, how can you deal with education? Because e-commerce in Mexico is a lot of education. We need to, as an e-commerce industry where everyone will have to come together to work on reducing the perception of risk that is related to buying online. So this is something that that will be very, very challenging to reduce. But if we just look at the number, the growth rate of e-commerce in Mexico last year, definitely things are heading in the right direction. Also, one of the things that we have seen is the payment system and the fintech landscape in Mexico is sophisticating very, very rapidly. So that means two things. There is more advanced solutions to process payments, but on the other hand, it becomes easier for people to get a credit card or a debit card. And if you would ask me what is one of the most exciting trends in Mexico at the moment, is really the boom in fintech and processing payments. Companies, whether it's the credit card companies or a PayPal or an Adyen or a Stripe, they have that under control. But getting Mexican people to have a debit card or a credit card, that is really going to unlock a lot of opportunity. So once we get to that, there's another challenge. And that challenge is logistics. This is not an easy country. In Mexico, in many cases, you do not order something and it arrives the same day. 2 years ago, that was impossible. It did not exist, same-day delivery. Now it's starting to arrive. If you order on Amazon, if you order on Mercado Libre, you start to have same-day delivery. In 1 or 2 years, this will be sort of the standard. It's coming very quickly. But if you would like to build an e-commerce business, well, e-commerce, of course, is very much a logistics business. You'll get a master class in how to sort out logistics when you move into Mexico. So there are a lot of challenges here associated with logistics. And this means that in the end, so we have a payment challenge, we have a logistics challenge. We need to have a captive audience. And I would like to talk a little bit about a company that has done that exceptionally well in Mexico, because the true success story of e-commerce in Latin America, of course, is Mercado Libre. And if you're in the Netherlands, you may not know too much about Mercado Libre because they operate in 18 countries, but those 18 countries are in Latin America. And they have grown their business over the past 22 years to become the largest e-commerce business in Mexico, for example, or in Brazil, and of course in Argentina, where they're originally from. So this is a company that has taken a very disruptive approach, tackling all these challenges in one go, where they're not just Mercado Libre, which is a marketplace, but they're also Mercado Pago, for example, which is their own payment platform. They're Mercado Envíos, which is their logistics solution. They have Mercado, I think it's called Tiendas. It's their Shopify, let's say, where you can set up your shops inside their platform. And by solving all these problems for the people that are buying and selling on the platform in an integrated way, they managed to overcome the challenges of growing an e-commerce business in Mexico. And this is something that that when you think about doing business in a country like Mexico in the e-commerce space, if you actually look to sell your product, it's probably very wise to take a hard look on how you're going to reach your audience, how are you going to manage your logistics. And the vast majority of companies end up working either with Mercado Libre or with Amazon. And of course, these are two very strong companies in this space. And they have a little bit of a different value proposition. And here I'm just speaking from a lot of the record discussions with people who work in both of these companies, because I guess they don't really share exactly their demographic breakdown of their audiences, etc. But depending on which product you're looking to sell, you should use a different platform. So Mercado Libre is very good at reaching the more middle class and lower middle class audience, while Amazon is positioned a little bit more upmarket. So there are a lot of variables to take into account when you want to actually develop a business in e-commerce in Mexico. And just to give you an idea of how much these companies believe in Mexico, Mercado Libre started investing in Mexico in 2017 when they invested $100 million. The year after that, they invested 275. The year after that, they invested 300. In 2021, Mercado Libre is going to spend $1.1 billion on developing its business in Mexico. So is there a real e-commerce opportunity in this country? Absolutely. And I think the MBSO, the embassy, and the information of many of the speakers that you'll have the opportunity to listen to between today and tomorrow can really give you a little bit of direction. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy to grow an e-commerce business in Mexico, but if you get it right, there is so much opportunity. The market is undeniably much bigger than the Dutch market. And if you look at what are the biggest economies in the world, well, most of those have very well developed e-commerce markets already. So if you're looking for an e-commerce market with growth opportunity, this is definitely going to be one of them. Of course, not everyone is looking to actually buy and sell goods or services. There will also be people who are providing services and solutions to those companies who are in the e-commerce space. And also for all those companies, which often are startups, even though they may be very big startups, there is something interesting to consider here. Mexico City is very rapidly becoming a startup capital in Latin America. So if you're looking to explore not only the e-commerce, the direct e-commerce opportunity, but to consider opportunities in supplying all your products and services to these e-commerce players. There is not only an opportunity here, but there is a very rapidly growing ecosystem of startups, of fintechs, of any kind of digital companies that are growing very rapidly. So there's a lot of opportunity, not only to consider this as a sales opportunity, but actually as a growth opportunity where companies could or should, if it's up to me, should, I would say, consider the opportunity of really considering Mexico very much as a digital opportunity, as a growth market. I think we're going to talk about Mexico forever. I will leave it at this to not take too much time from Gabriela, because I think she must have many slides that are exceptionally interesting. I hope that that by touching on a lot of different topics, this has set the stage for the discussions that will follow. The main takeaway here should be: take Mexico serious. It's much bigger than you think if you're in Holland. There's a lot of opportunity. This is a very fast growing e-commerce market. And finally, a lot of the signs are turning to green here. It's taken a while to develop e-commerce in Mexico, but it looks like we're going to have a very exciting couple of years to develop this market here. So for any Dutch company that is looking to come to Mexico, please investigate. We're ready to help you. Between the embassy, the MBSO, Holland House, there's some business to be done here. So hope to see you all in Mexico.
Great, Jeroen, thank you very much. And looking at the clock, we're punctual as ever. So thank you very much. I see the next speaker joined us already, but please, Daniela, bear with us for 2 minutes, because we got a couple of questions that came in, Jeroen. I'll pose two of you and just decide which one you want to answer, or maybe both, if you can do it quickly. Otherwise, we'll move them on to Daniela afterwards. First, let me say thank you very much for giving this extensive overview. It's clearly that within the e-commerce sector, in payment, logistics, access to internet, people being unbankable, there are many challenges, but as you rightfully say, so there are a lot of opportunities as well. And those are exactly the points and issues we're gonna hear from the other companies about later on. But the two questions that came in, one from Nora is how can Mexican companies help Dutch companies to enter or grow in the Mexican market? I understand that's a very open and wide question. And the second one is on warehousing. What are the, if there are any, what are the big risks of warehousing in Mexico? Jeroen.
So maybe let me start with the second one. So warehousing is pretty well developed and very advanced. And as most companies are entering the market by starting to sell through either Amazon or Mercado Libre, their warehousing is as advanced and as secure as any warehouse for e-commerce you can imagine in the Netherlands. These companies run state-of-the-art operations, and I think they are, well, they're growing their warehousing capacity at insane rates. So Mercado Libre is quadrupling its warehousing in Mexico in, I believe it's in about 18 months. So this is just unprecedented what is happening. And these companies, they've also gotten very good at their logistics and their last mile deliveries. The only challenge is getting your product into the country, perhaps, because Mexican customs is not necessarily the most efficient customs operator in the world. And if I don't think anything gets stolen, to be very honest. It's more a problem of inefficiency. And just to give you an example of a friend of mine who shipped a number of containers to Mexico full of goods to sell online. And in there, he had 200 toys. And those toys required a certification from COFEPRIS, which no one knew, which is the health regulator here in the country. That container was stuck for about 6 weeks in customs. And at the end, they had to pay a huge fee to get those 200 pieces destroyed. So the main challenge of logistics and warehousing is actually not logistics and warehousing, it's the paperwork that comes with your merchandise. So that is something very important to have under control. And how can Mexican companies support Dutch ones? I think there is a million ways in which that can happen. What is very nice about the Mexican startup / e-commerce ecosystem, people are incredibly open and incredibly supportive. So the main thing that I would recommend is reach out to whether it is the embassy or the MBSO or to Holland House. We know a lot of these people, and we can happily put you in touch, because this is not a market where people are just focused on competing with each other. People are very open to collaborating. And the Mexican market is difficult. It's a difficult nut to crack on your own. If you can have some guidance from a Mexican partner, it's definitely a very good thing. But also the Dutch companies have a lot to give, because we're a much more sophisticated e-commerce market. So there's an opportunity for an absolute win-win there. So yes, is it naturally so easy to do that on your own? No, but is it very difficult? Absolutely not. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for cooperation there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much again, Jeroen, for being here and sharing your insights with us. I just wanted to stress that the platform is going to stay active for a full year. So everybody who has registered is able to contact all the participants and speakers through the platform in the course of the year. I know there are many more questions, but unfortunately we're limited to the 2 hours we have. So Jeroen, once again, thank you very much on behalf of everybody for sharing. And please bear with us for a while, I hope. And then it's time to move on to Mrs. Daniela Rosco. As I mentioned before, Daniela currently heads the market research area for the Mexican Online Sales Association, AMVO, which represents the e-commerce sector in Mexico. With over 12 years of experience, we're super thrilled that you are here with us. I know you sent a presentation as well, but if I'm not mistaken, Daniela, you're going to share your screen with us so you can handle it yourself. Yes. Please, Daniela, the floor is yours.
All right. So hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. A great pleasure to be talking to you. We will be over an e-commerce landscape in Mexico. Just to give you a little bit of context of what the Asociación Mexicana de Online is. As Martin was explaining, we consolidate the e-commerce ecosystem. We come from categories, all categories or types of profiles. And in a little bit, I will show you a little bit a map of what that ecosystem is about. All the information that I'm going to show today is available online. We have a public version of all the research we have done. Only the online sales marketing sales study is the one that we have in English. But please send me an email if you need this information in English so I can provide it to you, because it's not available online, but definitely we have it. So that you have this reference for the numbers I'm going to show you. The first part that I would like to cover is giving you a little bit of context of in Mexico's e-commerce and how it's placed in the worldwide market. And this also begins with how is the worldwide e-commerce doing. This is going to represent 21% of all retail sales by 2023. And if you see the evolution of the e-commerce growth, it has been a steady increase, right? We see from 2016 to 2024, this definitely steady jump, definitely experienced by the 2020 push that we all had in terms of the digital transformation. But it's needless to say that this is an industry that has been happening and pushed by the mobile platforms. As you can see, definitely by this year, we're going to have 70% of the worldwide transactions are going to be happening online. Mexico in this line, well, it's a leader. Mexico has 35% growth in 2019. So this is something that it's not a coincidence that Mexico had one of the highest e-commerce growth rates in the past year, but it definitely has been something that has been steadily increasing year by year. And this is something that has to do because Mexico has a really, really broad market. There's a high competitive market with international players like Amazon, Wish, eBay, these foreign platforms that definitely put some rush on the local retailers to transform into digital channels. We have Liverpool, we have Electra, we have Coppel. Those are local players. And then we have the regional players as well, where Rappi, for example, Linio, and other players definitely have something to bring to the table because they have already experience in other markets like Brazil, like Colombia, like Chile, that bring a lot of knowledge to the market. So with that said, we also have a very, very strong ecosystem of startups. We have a lot of fintechs going on, especially for payments, especially for bringing this access to the transformation for the consumer who doesn't really have like a lot of bank penetration, and these payment platforms really have helped. We have other startups like Kavak, for example. It's a unicorn, the first Mexican unicorn. What they do is they sell cars. So we have really interesting mixture of traditional commerces, and then we have the digital commerces, the pure players bringing a new way for the consumer to understand how e-commerce is developed in the country. And then 2020 came, and we won a decade in weeks. For an estimation that we did in the previous year, for us, the e-market value on retail especially is valued on 360 billion Mexican pesos. That represents pretty much the 9% of the commerce, of the total commerce retail. And within this year, we experienced an 81% of growth. So definitely this has been a crucial point for Mexican commerce to really experience what e-commerce should be in terms of businesses and how this is going to be a priority for the next years. The e-commerce real growth, definitely, if you put it in context, well, we have a lot to go through and a lot to walk. We have definitely markets like China, where the 52% of that represents already the e-commerce sales of their total sales. We have other markets already developed, like the UK or the US, but Mexico still has a long to go, even though we did have a really good push in the past year. And this has been done because we have several factors to take into account. The internet penetration is even higher than the worldwide. We have pretty much what Brazil has. And if we compare it with China as well, we do have a good infrastructure to access to internet. In rural areas already, we have pretty much 80 million people already connected to the internet. So this is a really good platform for this. And the second factor that we definitely see a correlation when it comes to e-commerce penetration is the smartphone penetration, where Mexico already has covered pretty much 90% of the mobile lines that are registered on the different carriers. So this brings us a good platform of 123 million devices already in the market, ready to have a contact and a daily basis purchases for the Mexican consumer. Although I have been listening about what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that we need to discuss, and I think the previous presentation already brought us a little bit of the landscape of what this is. First of all, we have to take into account that bank penetration is quite low in Mexico. Only 61% do not have a bank account registered. The cash role is quite important for the Mexican market, and I will show you a little bit in what categories this is something crucial to take into account. The second one is the consumer confidence, especially when we have such a load of new consumers bringing experience now to the digital channel, where we have tons of problems with delivery, a lot of insecurity about the payments and the fraud risk. We have 31% of Mexicans who do not feel safe when buying online. So this is something crucial to bring to the communication that you will be bringing to the market, to make sure that you are already attacking these two issues. The third one is a very delicate one because it has been happening for quite some time, and we have been working with banks and institutions. But something that we have is a very low acceptance rate. What does that mean? That means that from 10 transactions that we have being asked to be accepted by banks, coming from e-commerce, only 64% of digital transactions are actually approved. We still have a long way to go. We have almost 40% of the transactions that are rejected, and some of the commerces do not even know what the reason is. In other markets, in other references that we have of leading e-commerce markets like the US or the UK, we are talking about 80–90% of acceptance rates. So this is something that actually the AMVO is attacking. We're trying to discuss this with institutional banks. We are talking with the government institutions to actually bring this number up with having control with the fraud and the chargebacks that happen also in this market. But it's very important to take into account. And the fourth one that actually was touched in the previous presentation is Mexico has a lot of issues in terms of logistics performance. This is something that the Logistics Performance Index that we take into account. This is from the World Wide Bank, and Mexico leads in the number 55. We have Germany and the number 1. Chile is the Latin American market that has also good rates. Mexico has a lot of issues, as we were saying, in terms of customs, especially paperwork. We have a lot of delays. Companies like Wish or AliExpress or this other type of cross-border companies do have this as a struggle, and it's quite a key pain point. The other one is infrastructure, especially for roads. We have a lot of areas where they do not reach still for the postal codes, rural areas. We have security issues in the borders, in the roads. So this is something to take into account as well, for especially when deploying to other areas that are less urban. Because this is going to be a struggle, and the public player, this is Cepomex, is not bringing the service that the private sector needs to bring merchandise within the 2-3 days that are usually now the average time to deliver consumer goods. Anyway, I will leave you here with an URL where you can find AMVO already put together a lot of the companies that work in the Mexican market. So I think this is very important for you guys to check. This is the URL. It's a free material, but this is going to give you an idea of what are the players in the market that you can take into account in terms of e-commerce platforms, in terms of local players that can help you develop your business in the country. The second part of my presentation is going to focus more on the Mexican consumer. This is something that comes from a declared service. That means that we ask consumers in exchange for incentives to tell us what they think, what they're worried about, what do they like, what are their preferences. And it has been really interesting to see the effects of the pandemic and how this has developed into the consumer's mind. So one thing that we took into consideration is that the pandemic, and this is a graph that we did a measurement, what happened in April, October, and then January 2021, and to see how the interaction with the digital channels was happening. And not only they use it more to search online and buy products online, we can see definitely a significant difference from January to April, but also we saw an increase on how they use this channel to also shop online, right? So this has been a really good platform. We have been testing if this is something that is just because they're locked down, or this is something that is going to continue. And it has been really good to know that in the last month, 56% of the consumers already purchased something in the previous 30 days. And 16% of them, it's the first time that they experience the online channel. So this brings us not only recurrent consumers already that are steadily and weekly acquiring services. More than 50% of our consumers say that they purchase something online in a weekly basis. And the first time online consumers are already trying different products, not only fashion, not only electronics, but they're trying several other categories that really bring a good panorama and a good landscape for new categories to start penetrating in the market. In terms of demographics, our Mexican consumer, especially during the 2020, previous to that, we had a really equal balance between men and women. But in this case, we did have a little bit of increase on the female market, especially because of supermarkets. Fashion was another industry that grew quite a bit. So the feminine market is a little bit more used to buying online. Another good news that we had is that during the pandemic, we increased the base of people among the 45 to the 64 years old bracket. So that means that we're bringing more people with a potential budget to buy online. We also did find an increase on the mid-economic levels. We bracket this into AB is the high economic level and D is the lowest one. And we did see an increase on the middle income levels where we definitely had much more, like a big bunch of people who are in that new socioeconomic bracket. And the region, of course, it's concentrated in Mexico City. It's the largest of all, but we do have a steady increase also in other regions in the country. We do see that Southeast is one of the ones that need more push and need more acquiring communication to let them know that the e-commerce is present in the regions. North and West do have a strong presence. And definitely the use of devices is crucial for the Mexican consumer. We see 98% of our Mexican consumers do have a smartphone, and we saw a little bit of decrease on the laptop use, but also that means it's also reflected on what happens with the age bracket who might not be as as digital as we thought, and smartphone is the device or tablet is the device. But well, in terms of demographic profile, I think that this brings you a good idea that it's not just focused on the young people, it's not just focused on the people with money, but we're seeing a democratization of the digital channels also happening for other types of population. The reasons why they buy online is really interesting. This is a market that has been recognizing the benefits of buying online besides the price. And the price has a really important role, but it has to do more with the moments and the type of categories that they buy. In general, and if we talk about if this is something that comes top of mind of the consumers, they like internet channels because they find products that are not available on a physical store. So for those who have no physical presence, this is a good thing to take into account. Also, the benefits of convenience. So receiving purchases at home, saving time. This is something that Mexican consumers really appreciate, and definitely COVID still is in their minds. They still want to avoid crowds. They still want to avoid any risk of getting the virus. So this is a good idea to give you that Mexican consumers are already putting a lot of value on the online channel, especially because they solve problems instead of just going for the lowest price. For those who do not choose digital channels, we have 4 things that we have detected that really would increase their motivation to choose the online channels. They are really afraid of the online fraud. We are a country who historically do not have any type of, and actually this is something that happens, Mexican laws don't really enforce when there is a crime online, especially for e-commerce. So these people do commit fraud and they do not really have any consequence for it. So the consumer also knows this, and this is something that they're really worried about. So in the communication, it's really important to bring this to the table for the consumer to make sure that they know that they're buying in an online and unsafe platform. Guarantee of damaging, a guarantee of exchanging in case of defect. Also, still some worries for the non-online buyers. Payment methods, as I was saying, only 49% of people do have a bank account, so they ask that not only concentrate your offer on credit and debit, but you do offer on other types of payments. I will go into detail a little bit more in another slide, but this is really important because the people who do not have any credit or debit need to have access to a digital payment in order to participate on e-commerce. Detailed information, Mexican consumers as well were not very used to buying online in previous years. This is something that has been increased quite slowly. So they do worry about the details information, the high quality pictures, the dimensions, all type of information is really well appreciated, and this is something, a barrier that these non-online consumers detect that they need to be solved in order for them to actually take the risk and buy online. And the logistics, which are really good in the urban areas, we have deliveries even in hours, even in 30 minutes, but in other areas like far from the urban areas, the time of the delivery times are not as good as in the rest of the market. So this is something that hits. The return process as well is something to take into account, to be very clear about the rules and the types of processes that they need to do in order to do any return. The online shopping preferences in terms of categories are really important as well. We did see an increase on people preferring to buy food delivery more last year than ever. Food delivery has been really well accepted. Fashion and electronics, for example, were the top winning categories in the previous years, and in this year, beauty and personal care, all FMCG products, I'm talking about pharmacy, supermarkets, these are categories that were really well accepted by the market in 2020, especially because they solved a need during lockdown that didn't force, but really made a new way to buy for the consumers, these type of products. And beauty and personal care kind of went to the top 3 categories that Mexican market is really accepting on online channels. Electronics, home appliances, and other type of furniture, home and decoration are really important as well for the country, especially because they already experienced this during lockdown. We saw an increase on trends for furniture because of all the people trying to build their home office, or they're trying to decorate this new home that they have been there for quite some time. So this is something to take into account as well, how other categories like automotive, pets, and kids do have a good base for developing as well in the next years. In terms of payments, I have been talking about how broad the offer needs to be for payments, online payments. We see that this has to take into account what type of product the Mexican consumer is buying. First of all, we see a really good trend of debit and credit card among all the categories in retail, but we do see an important role of cash, especially for pharmacy, for food delivery, for office supplies, where the Mexican consumer already finishes the payment with our convenience store. We have OXXO, for example, which is a really large convenience store chain, and they do have some bundles with Amazon and other players because this market really requires cash to happen on e-commerce channels. And we do see as well some department stores cards really strong in certain categories like furniture and home, or fashion or beauty as well, where you have to take into account as well, because the department stores in Mexico have a big penetration and they have been doing a really good job in competing with the large pure players like Amazon and Mercado Libre. In terms of delivery, Mexican market really has gone into home delivery, especially during 2020. Office and workplace delivery experienced a decrease between 2019 and 2020 because of the lockdown. And this is something that really interested to me, because this is something that the consumer is saying that it's perceived to be something preferred, but that doesn't mean that this has to be. We can push other channels like collect and distribution centers, collect in physical stores, where probably the infrastructure might not be as ready, but the consumer has been experiencing this. So we have seen a deployment of hubs and hub lockers, especially for Amazon and other players, where they're using other physical channels to deliver these products in areas where they do not do home delivery as good as in other urban areas. So this is something to take into account. And I will bring you some numbers of something that we have done where we follow the behavior of sites. We do not ask the consumer, but we track what they do, their navigation online. And we do it with a tool that pretty much just records behavioral data. So this is something really good to do because we can find reach, frequency, tickets, average tickets, even conversion rates. So this is a good way to track what is going on in the whole in the whole e-commerce site's activity. So something that really goes into account as well here that happens, and it's a trend worldwide, is the push of mobile devices. So we see that Mexico do have also this increased trend of mobile navigation. The visit trends, we can see that in Mexico, 85% of them are already online. These visits happen already online because we have a high penetration of smartphones. We do have a lot of people already consuming. So when you do strategies for the Mexican market, please take into account responsive sites and responsive pages where we can have a navigation not only on desktop but in other screens. And the other trend that I wanted to show you is this trend where we can see definitely how the variation in visits have been happening. So if we take as February as our index of 100%, and then we track all the activity that has been happening, we can see definitely two big moments that have been going on in the market. First of all, we have this steady increase by March and April, where all this new communication of the government, or where Mexico was happening, was going on with the pandemic, and phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 definitely pushed the visits that we had online. And then we had this crucial campaign that was Hot Sale. Hot Sale is actually a campaign that Asociación Mexicana de Venta Online organizes for 7 years now. It's going to be happening this year at the end of May, I'm sorry. So this is a crucial moment for a lot of brands, where the testing of their abilities in the e-commerce market really really happens in terms of logistics, in terms of inventory, in terms of the experience of the web page. So with these learnings, we saw the rest of the year brands trying to solve all those issues that they did in this stress test, let's say in Hot Sale. And then by the end of the year, by November, we saw an increase with Buen Fin. Buen Fin is a government organized campaign that happens during November. It's kind of our Black Friday. And for the Mexican market had been traditionally on the physical channels. We saw in previous years, like in 2019, e-commerce only represented like 5% of the total sales. And this year it bumped to 11%. So Buen Fin was a really good way to still finish all the inventory that they couldn't sell in the whole year. And the Mexican market accepted it really well. So to take into account these two moments, besides other incentives, depending on the categories, like fashion is really sensitive to offers, supermarket might be sensitive to other seasonalities, like in July or August, where traditionally brick and click retailers do have their offers on groceries and other type of products. So just to take into account that the Mexican visits did not come back to the 100% that they were experiencing in February. They already created a base of consumers that steadily visit all shopping sites and created pretty much they finished with a 50% increase in their visits. So to take into account, this is something to consider. And 2021 and beyond, what we see and expect from this year, where we see a consolidation. We definitely experienced a year of growth during the past year. We see that the companies are preparing better. So this is also maturing the market. And we also see that not only the big companies developed online channels, but SMEs actually brought a lot to the table. We did have some numbers, and 64% of the SMEs in Mexico already sell online. And I'm saying online on social media channels, by instant messaging, by my Amazon or Mercado Libre, or their own sites. So this is something very important for the Mexican market, because we're digitalizing the whole structure of the private sector. And we also see an explosion of small brands, especially consumer brands, direct to consumer. That means that they stopped using the retailer and they started talking to the consumer directly. They opened their sales on their websites, and this is something that will be happening more and more. We have more confidence with consumers buying online. This is something that we have to be really careful, because especially during the months of hot sale, for example, where we had a lot of problems with delivery, a lot of problems with errors in the merchandise. Well, this confidence might be a little bit lower if you don't do this correctly. But we did see a return in values and essentials this year, especially this year, where we have a decrease on other socioeconomic levels. We see the price will be more important than in the past. And this is something because the economic situation also brings some worries to the Mexican consumer, where they have to really use their money wisely. We suggest you to do more research before deploying your products, because definitely the consumer is going to search more, is going to have more visibility of other brands. They do use 95% of them already use digital sources to find about brands. So this is something really important for the communication strategies that you deploy. The logistics change, definitely opportunities, improving planning, improving capacity and service. If you do have a partner, a local partner, this is something that they can help you with. And the development of different marketplaces, social commerce especially, is going to have a really important role for the Mexican market, especially for the low economic levels, where the barrier is less confronting, right? It's more familiar with buying on social platforms because they already know the platform. And mobile payments, we see an increase on mobile payments. We see that a lot of Banxico, for example, the central bank, already developed a type of app where it's called CODI, which makes QR payments much easier for the SMEs to bring to the consumers and start bringing more digital payments to their base. And definitely the deployment of more cities in Mexico, we see that it's going to keep growing. And other countries like you guys, the TIMEC, for example, really had a good platform for e-commerce to start developing. So this is something to take into account when strategies. If you have any other questions, please let me know. But you can find all the information that I showed on the URL Publicaciones. And if you have any other extra questions, this is Estudios, the email that you can send me an email, and definitely I will answer the questions.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much, Daniela, for this very thorough and comprehensive presentation. I'm a little bit dazzled by all the information and numbers that you've shown, but down the bottom line, for me, it's also confirmation of the huge potential and the opportunities there are in the Mexican e-commerce market. If you're okay with it, we would also love to download this presentation and put it up on the platform for participants to download it and have a more thorough look into it. Bear with me for a second. We're running late a little bit. My apologies for that, but we got a couple of questions. I just wanted to ask you one quickly, and it's, if I'm not mistaken, it relates to recently implemented new regulations and law on impuestos, on VAT and ISR. So what is your recommendation for Dutch companies who want to enter the Mexican market and sell their products on platform with regards to the impuestos? Thank you.
To the taxes, yes. Well, there's a big now a bunch of offices that bring support and other types of guidelines. We do have a legal committee in the association that can help if you guys need more information or so. I'm not an expert on legal advice, but we do have the legal committee that helps with this type of questions. And it's important to say that this is something that is going to be happening still. Mexican market for quite some time didn't have a good collecting a strategy in terms of taxes. So right now, the implementation for platforms online, and not only for products, but also for services happening. So it's good to have some advice on the local players, especially when dealing with, depending on the products, because COFEPRIS, as somebody was saying, this is it's a regulatory institution as well, who do have some different requirements for different products, and the taxes as well, depending on how the strategy is. If it's through a marketplace, if it's through a normal website, this is something to take into account.
Perfect. Once again, thank you very much, Daniela, for your time and openness and willingness to share the information with us. Also, thanks again to Jeroen, to both of you for setting the landscape and giving a very thorough overview of the e-commerce market in Mexico and also what Dutch companies have to offer. I see there's an active discussion going on in the chat. I would encourage to keep doing that, but also make use of the possibility of organizing one-on-one meetings on the platform. But with further ado, because we're running late a little bit, we're moving over to two Dutch companies who recently entered the market. It's Adyen and CM.com. I would first introduce Alexander Froderberg and Eric McKenney from Adyen. Eric is the country manager at Adyen in Mexico, who's responsible for the development of strong partner relationships while providing them with the consultancy they need to succeed in e-commerce. He's over 10 years of experience in technology companies, including Verizon and Red Uno. And Mr. Alexander Froderberg is the head of sales here in Mexico. We've been in touch a lot over the last couple of weeks. We're super thrilled that you guys are here. If I'm not mistaken, we're going to share the screen with you, and it's in your hands now, Eric and Alexander. I'm not sure who's kicking off, but the floor is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the floor, huh? And I'll be kicking it off, and I'd like to first of all thank Karun and Daniela for sharing their excitement about the Mexican market, and excitement of which we definitely share and have been building up throughout the past 6 years in the Mexican market. I'd like to go through and begin with talking a little bit about who Adyen is, where we come from, what we've been doing throughout the past 15 years as a company, which will then lead up to Eric's part, where he will talk a little bit more in specific about Mexico and give you some tips and tricks. So first of all, who are Adyen? Adyen is a payments platform, and we help merchants around the globe to basically connect their shoppers to themselves through payments, right? And a lot of you might know us for helping many of the leading tech companies around the world, such as Uber and Facebook and Spotify. But that has not, of course, always been the reality. There was once upon a time where we were a very small company and we were just starting up. And that was back in 2006. Back in 2006, our founders came with a lot of experience within the payments industry. And they just started another payments company and sold that. And they started up in the late 90s and sold it in early 2000s. They brought a lot of learnings from having that company within the payments industry and the dot-com sort of bubble, right? Or the dot-com boost, if you will. And they learned somewhat that the payments infrastructure that we worked on today and rely back on today, it has a lot of flaws. It has a lot of legacy to it. There's a lot of banks owning that infrastructure. It has been commoditized in many ways. The way that you accept the payment is often done through several connections. You have several different legacy platforms, and the way to scale within that is often done through several providers. So if you think of a transaction, it needs to go through a gateway. You need to have a risk management system. You need to have an acquiring solution to move funds from A to B, right? Often done through banks, often done through several different platforms that are not built to really work together, but they're integrated and somewhat was made to work together, right? So throughout the past decade and a half, what Adyen has been doing around the globe really is to untangle that payments infrastructure by building a full stack payments platform. And it's truly one platform, no matter where around the globe you're at. We like to say that by working with Adyen, you subscribe to continuous payments innovation. Why is that? So throughout the years, we've collectively worked together with all our merchants to grow the platform with new features and new support throughout new regions. And what's really exciting about the Adyen platforms, as there's only one platform around the globe, is that all merchants benefit from the developments as it's released across our singular platform for all merchants to use. So say that we work on something for Uber or for Spotify, that doesn't mean that it's only for Uber or Spotify. It's rather a subscription for everyone to use, right? And that is exactly what happened in Mexico. So many of our merchants, including the likes of Spotify, and some of the largest retailers in the world, they needed help with a rather complex Mexican payments landscape. And this happened about 6 years ago. And in those 6 years, we've navigated ourselves to become really experts in the local payments market. And we're lucky enough to have Mr. Eric McKinney with us here today. Eric has been a big incremental part of growing the Mexican market for us throughout the past few years. And I'm excited to say that we're going to have to listen to him for the coming few, maybe 20 or 30 minutes here. And he is going to give us a lot of expertise on the Mexican payments market. So Eric, I'm going to hand it over to you to take it off.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks everyone again for the time. I wanted to kick off with this image that I took back in Amsterdam in one of our merchants' offices from Heineken. And I can relate a lot with this image because what we started doing in Amsterdam and back in Europe in 2006 was fundamental for the build-up of our platform and our technology. But when we started exploring markets, not only in Europe, but then outside of Europe, Americas, Asia Pacific, and then in 2015-14, when we started in Mexico, we really bring the platform to a different level, right? We say that we mature operating with different currencies, with different payment ecosystem, networks, players, and then you can see that we tested the reliability of our platform, the architecture of our systems, because when you start playing in the global new digital economy, then having the best technology definitely will help out to dominate in all the markets that you participate in. So yes, Alex, indeed, when we entered this market 6 years ago, we realized that it was quite complex, right? And this is because the ecosystem in Mexico faced a lack of functionality, flexibility, and innovation. And why is that? It is mainly because the whole payment ecosystem in Mexico was built for the pre-internet era. So one of the switches in Mexico, for example, has 50 years, 50 years operating in this market. And all their technology, all the architecture available in the market, again, was designed to support in-store transactions mainly done with terminals, right? What we know as traditional commerce or in-store commerce. Of course, in late 2010, when the e-commerce boom started in Mexico with the entrance of players such as Uber, Amazon, and such players, the whole technology and the whole network needed to shift and rise up to serve the needs of new shoppers and mostly serve also the incremental growth of the e-commerce transaction. And with that, start facing the requirements and the complexity and the expectations, the operational expectations that such players have in this market. So we have seen a continuous exponential growth that topped by what happened in 2020, very well explained by Daniela Orozco. By the 10th week of 2020, we saw an incremental volume of e-commerce in Mexico that has kept the same for the following weeks and months. And definitely we are seeing now volumes that we didn't expect it until 2024, 2025. And that means that all the underlying technology that supports that level of operation, that supports that number of transactions, needs also to scale up accordingly, right? It requires better reconciliation system, better authorization systems, but also it requires better consolidation of what makes this ecosystem work. So again, we have been facing a lack of functionality, flexibility, and innovation, but what exactly does this mean? This means, and what you're seeing in your screen, on top of your screen, is the traditional value chain of payments, right? In this traditional value chain of payments, from when the shopper clicks in the pay button in-app or in-web, to when the merchant receives the funds from the issuing banks, a lot of steps happen in between, right? There are a lot of things happening behind the curtains, right? And this is what makes very complex to have a consolidated digital payment strategy, because this is a transactional flow. So the transaction goes again from when the shopper clicks on pay to whatever gateway the merchant has to interact with the network. Daniela was referring to one of the key problems in Mexico being the acceptance rate. The acceptance rate is an issue because around 40% of the e-commerce transactions in Mexico are refused for many different reasons. But that also has to do with the technical integration the merchants have with the ecosystem. Then we pass on to whatever risk management strategy the merchants have. Jeroen was talking about 35% of the e-commerce transactions are reported as fraudulent transactions. And that is because most of the payment data in Mexico is compromised somehow. So it is pretty easy to steal payment card data, to start buying online, subscribing into recurring digital merchants, for example. So dealing with fraud, it becomes a really, really challenging task. Then if we move to the right, you have the processing and the acquiring. And here is where in Mexico things become a little bit tricky, because you have two different big networks that operate in a very different way. They compensate in a different way. They speak different technical languages, let's say, and they are owned by different parties, right? So depending on what you're trying to do in terms of offering installments to your clients, if you want to offer digital wallets such as Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, you need to integrate to the different networks, again, in a different fashion. And of course, the schemes, what we know as the schemes or the international networks such as Visa and MasterCard, are not truly present in this market. That means that we are somehow in a closed ecosystem, completely run by the bank's technology, right? That, as we spoke before, is a legacy technology built for the pre-internet era, which requires a lot of optimization to face the new challenges of the digital economy. So what I'm saying here is that the traditional value chain, as you can see, it is quite fragmented. It requires a lot of technical integration, and a lot of information is lost in translation. Because not only the information flows from left to right, from your e-commerce and your application to the issuers or the owners of the cards, right? The issuing banks, owners of the cards. But then there is information traveling back, what the issuer answers in terms of fraud, in terms of authentication, in terms of money settlement. So there is also information traveling back to the networks, then traveling back to the processors and the acquirers, and then again traveling back to your e-commerce platforms. So this fragmented ecosystem represents quite a challenge when you refer to optimization, when you refer to scale your business. So what we have seen in the last 5 years is that the Mexican payments landscape adds more complexity to this traditional value chain because, again, there are two different networks, and this fragmented approach reflects on how the Mexican payment ecosystem has been built, right? When you see how the issuers, how the networks operate, this fragmented approach is a reality in every part of the value chain. So now that you know the traditional value chain, you can see very clearly that this represents a technological problem. This is not a financial problem, right? Payments is not about a financial discussion, but a technological discussion that requires technology to actually fix all the issues and the challenges that we are facing. As Alex said before, in Mexico also the payments industry is quite commoditized because, again, the lack of innovation makes the pricing the whole discussion about payments. That's why there is a misconception when we engage with merchants and prospects in Mexico about payments being just a financial discussion. And as you have learned today, this traditional value chain is more a technological discussion that requires technology to actually optimize and overcome the challenges that we see. What you see down here is the value chain proposed by Adyen and what we are bringing into this market. As we said before, this is a technological problem that can only be fixed introducing innovation to the market, right? So for the last 6 years, we have been eliminating all this complexity of the local ecosystem with our full stack technology that simplifies and redefines the way of doing payments in Mexico. Because through a single technology stack, we are not only integrating to the ecosystem, but also controlling the risk management strategies of our merchants in different verticals such as digital, retail, travel, delivery, transportation. But also we are fixing a main problem about processing and acquiring in Mexico, which means in this underlying flow, this is most commonly not seen by the shopper, but the merchants struggle a lot in getting paid. So it is not only about approval rates and lower the chargeback rates or the fraudulent transaction rates. It's also about making sure our merchants get paid, that we actually receive the money from the issuing banks, from the networks to actually provide visibility in terms of reports, in terms of operational tools to our merchants to reconcile more and more and more payments. As Alex was saying before, this is a game of volumes. This is a game of technology. You learn about doing this thing by processing millions of transactions a month, by reconciling millions of dollars a month in terms of transactional volume. And that requires a very extensive operation. So what we're bringing to the market is a simplification of what the merchants need to do two key activities. Again, making sure they get paid by the Mexican network. And secondly, providing operational excellency. So they can focus on their business and they can focus in growing and scaling as the new digital economy demands here in Mexico. So now that you know the Adyen value chain, we can say that we're doing also, or we are shifting the conception of payments in two ways. We are shifting the payments industry from being a commodity, very difficult to operate and optimize with banks, to the payments strategy being an enabler of the digitalization or the digital strategy of our merchants, and also payments being a revenue driver for our merchants. What this means is that in order to participate in the new digital economy, you need digital tools in order to consolidate the digitalization journey of your new e-commerce channel. Because having an e-commerce channel doesn't necessarily means that your companies operate in a digitalized way. To actually digitalize the way you serve your clients through e-commerce, again, you need a truly digital platform to do that. So what exactly does this mean in Mexico, and how we are simplifying this whole complexity? With our platform, we are directly connecting to the local networks, so we get closer to the issuers, following the same idea of the value chain. What we want to do is to come more and more to the right, let's say, of this value chain, cover more and more steps of the flow of a transaction, and therefore we are getting closer to the issuers. We are getting closer to where the shoppers have their money, and that means a credit card, a debit card, a prepaid card, a wallet. So if you see, what we're doing in this market is to get our merchants closer to their shoppers and their shoppers' preferences in terms of payment methods, in terms of digital wallets, in terms of facility to authenticate, for example, using their mobile devices. And that means that we are eliminating the dependencies on third parties that, again, lack of technology, lack of innovation, in order to bring what the platform is offering in other markets to the Mexican market, right? And we have been learning a lot. We will talk about in a bit about how the different verticals, the exhaustive merchants we serve in this market, have been teaching us how to overcome the traditional challenges, right? When we entered into this market, the traditional networks didn't support a lot of the operations merchants such as Spotify were expecting, right? They validate cards, they tokenize, they do 3D secure, they do a lot of things that the network wasn't ready to offer or even to deploy. But in the last 5 years, we have seen a lot of progress because there are new players coming into the market. There are new technology also challenging the status quo as our technology. But the key thing what is happening in the market is that the shopper for the very first time, the consumer for the very first time, is centered in this equation, in this whole discussion, right? In late 2010, the whole payments discussion was a banking discussion, a financial institution kind of discussion. And as the digital economy evolves, we have seen the shopper coming in more and more into the center part of the whole discussion. That means that the shopper, the consumer, dictates which payment methods become relevant, which technology they want to use to pay, what user experience they are expecting in terms of, for example, save their cards and pay later, and using cards, debit and credit cards for subscriptions, for digital merchants, and so on and so forth. So basically what we're seeing here is that the shift on the demand, the shift on the needs in the market is definitely transforming. And also the new players and the contestants in this market, such as Adyen and our closest competitors, are bringing or rising the bar way up to make Mexico more competitive in terms of the global digital economy, that also the global merchants are bringing into Mexico. And now I'll pass it on to Alex back again to discuss a little bit more about how the complexity of our merchants, how we have been building for our merchants in the last 5 years, and therefore developing our technology locally.
Thank you, Eric. I think that this goes for all merchants and operations around the globe, not only Mexico. But if you look at, again, reiterating what Eric was saying about how the consumer is sort of in the middle and the center of attention of things, right? If you look historically speaking, a traditional retailer might have a store. You as a consumer needed to walk to that store in order to purchase something, and then you walk back home with your goods, right? That is not the beauty of today's digital economy. The beauty of today's digital economy is that you as a consumer dictates wherever you want to shop, right? And we identified that quite early, both in Europe and in the US and all around the globe, that we've been operating throughout the past decade and a half, right? And that is happening rapidly in Mexico right now. And I think those are the types of conversations that we've been having with our merchants. And how do we fix that? Again, that goes back to the technology discussions. You'll have retail merchants that are very exposed to fraud. That is not a commoditized question. That is a technology question. You need to do partial refunds. You need to do validations. Spotify and Didi, they need to do subscription payments. If you look at Aeromexico and Viva Aerobus, they are airlines with very high demands. How do you figure that out? It's not a question of commodity again. It's a matter of solving the complex infrastructure of payments while serving the customer first, right? Making sure that they can shop whenever they want to, however they want to, with whatever payment method they want to use, right? And that is also shifting very rapidly, right? So we see new payment methods popping up. We see new things within the payments landscape popping up. And it's very important for merchants operating within these markets and within the payments infrastructure to be very flexible and to be very quick on their feet and to be able to, whenever something new comes up, to offer that to their customers. And to sum that up, I think what we're seeing in Mexico is sort of what we saw in Europe, in 2007, 8, 9, 10, although it's happening at a very, very, very rapid pace. And that makes us super excited because we're a company that are very quick on our feet. And we see merchants in Mexico being very quick on their feet and the need of being quick on their feet now as well. And they get more and more innovative by the day that's passing by, right? And yeah, with that said, I'd like to open up the floor for questions if there are any.
And Alex, you were mentioning something very, very important, which is at the beginning this subscription, the continuous subscription for innovation, right? So the way the platform works and behaves means that a local merchant such as InnovaSport can access the same technology, the same architecture and the technical integration as any other global merchant being served by the Adyen platform, right? So all the lessons learned, all the challenges we faced back then in Europe in 2006, 2010, but later when opening Japan, Malaysia, and so on and so forth, resembled very much to what is happening in Mexico. So basically what we're saying to the Mexican merchants is that, first of all, you are not alone. Second of all, we are not reinventing the wheel because in Mexico, because the market is pretty similar and is facing the pretty similar challenges as elsewhere. And there is a technology that can provide a solution, that it is a toolbox. So you can start replicating what other international players are doing in this market. So you can increase your approval rates, you can decrease the chargeback rates, you can also improve your operations and make payments a digitalized operation, but most of all a revenue driver and a source of information to get to know better your clients. I see a question here from Carlos, Alex, and that is, what is the onboarding experience of a web shop with Adyen? And that is a great question, Carlos, because we entered into these markets such as Brazil, Mexico, and the rest of the Americas with the approach of top-down. As I said before, this is the payments is a volumes game. You learn by processing massive volumes. You learn by serving demanding clients. So instead of starting with the long tail, with smaller merchants, what we call mid-market or pymes in Mexico, we start serving the enterprise part of the market, on which the massive volumes reside, you know, the airlines, the big retailers, and then we start moving down to the mid-market. What that means is that we first consolidate and we build from the ground up, right? We first got into Mexico, learned what was in place in terms of players, networks, issuing banks, acquiring banks, and so on. Then we start building connections, technical connections, developing partnerships. And at the very, very end, we start engaging with local merchants, right? We first understood what was needed, what was the necessity of the big international players. And then until last year, we start serving actually or actively engaging with local players through Alex's team, because now we know what we're doing. We don't start the other way around with a big sales campaign, with a big branding campaign, and then later figure that out. By the contrary, we start with the enterprise merchants. So the onboarding experience is quite personal, I would say. So we dedicate all of our resources, sales, account management, support, implementations, to engage with these enterprise players, to understand the needs, to replicate all of our learnings, and deploy very solid or very consistent payment strategy. That's why we are now focusing in this spectrum of the market. And later on, as we do in other markets such as the US and Europe and Asia, we will engage in the mid-market. So the experience right now, I would say, Carlos, is very personalized. You most likely would meet Alex, myself, the folks here in the Mexican office, because we work more as a consultancy payments company, a quite niche company as of today. Alex, I don't know if you want to complement that one, or we can move to the following question.
We can go ahead and move. That was a perfect answer, Eric. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Alexander and Eric, and also for picking up the first question already. It's impressive, this corporate story of Adyen, where you've come from since 2006 and where you are right now. We're hugely grateful for sharing your experiences in entering the Mexican market and how you approach it. To me, at least, it's extremely clear right now that the payment services landscape is very complex, more than just being a financial challenge. It's a technical, it's a digital challenge, and you very eloquently put out how you try to bring the merchants closer to the shoppers in this matter. I know you don't have a crystal ball with you, or at least I guess you don't. But taking into account the huge progress we've seen over the past year, what are your expectations for the next couple of years, looking at the payment landscape in Mexico? Where are we at in 2025?
Alex, I think you can go for this one.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? With consumer in the center again. We're seeing rapid growth. We're seeing new networks and innovation coming into the market quickly, and with the entrance of players such as ourselves and many others coming from the outside and into Mexico. I think what we expect is to see, Mexico following whatever we've been doing in the US and in Europe throughout the past few years. More payment methods, more participation, more omni-channel or unified commerce experiences, which basically means that, again, I myself as a shopper can walk into a store, I can shop through my mobile, I can shop with my laptop, surfing on the couch at home, no matter where I'm at. I'm supposedly, able to shop at the stores that I like. Not only payments is incremental for that, there's a lot of other things that needs to be figured out. But I think that is a trend and the discussions that we're seeing. And the innovation in the market right now and the pace that is happening is so quick that I don't see a stopping point.
Definitely. And complementing that, as Alex was mentioning, we see very clearly that the barriers between the traditional world, the in-store kind of transaction, to the digital online world is becoming more and more blurry. This clear limitation or separation between the two worlds is becoming more and more blurry, not only in terms of customer experience. Now we see, for example, in the pandemic, a lot of merchants start serving their clients in a different way, through the chat, right? Through online chats, through WhatsApp, offering pay by link solutions, for example. Just, hey, have a discussion with a customer care agent, and then later just go click and pay through Facebook chat, through WhatsApp, and so on. So not only on the user experience, this barrier is clearly removing, but also on the operational side of things. More and more merchants in Mexico are asking, okay, guys, when are you going to offer POS? Because I want to offer the same capabilities, the same user experience I'm offering online into the traditional shop. I want my shoppers, to go into the store and see an iPad and navigate through the endless aisle of e-commerce, but also see and experience what is happening in store. For example, Innova is a great example of that. Innova Sport is pushing us to the boundaries because they want to see the unified commerce experience also deployed in Mexico, because they already understood the value proposition of a digital platform to serve a digital strategy, an overall digital strategy of a merchant to serve their shoppers. So we see this as a clear trend, and we see adoption in Mexico going really, really fast. That's why at the beginning, Jeroen was talking about what Mercado Libre is doing, which is quite impressive, right? They are getting closer and closer to what Amazon is offering in terms of user experience. And we see everyone rising up to meet the shopper's expectations. The shopper wants to buy with the same experience, same day delivery, go in store, and if you don't find your merchandise, you just go online in the same store and have assisted shopping with all the digital channel and the enhanced digital experience that you can bring with a platform such as Adyen.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. One last question, if I may. It's a topic which has been raised both by Jeroen from Mexico Business News and Daniela from AMVO, and Eric mentioned it as well in your presentation, and it relates to fraud problems in Mexico. You've probably seen the question in the app. How can Adyen improve the fraud problems in Mexico?
That is, I think, the biggest challenge in growth our merchants and prospects face. It is impressive how all the volumes increase that we saw in 2020, and Daniela Orozco explained clearly, occurred without solving the fraudulent transactions issue, right? Unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of opportunistic fraudsters took advantage of the demand, right? Took advantage of merchants trying to sell online whatever they couldn't sell in physical stores anymore because of the pandemic. We saw an opportunistic approach in the fraudsters stealing more payment card data to use that in e-commerce operations. So unfortunately, even though the volumes growth, the frauds took up there, and also growth in line with the decrease of the transactional volume in Mexico. So we identify that as the biggest challenge, not only the online retail merchants, but also all the verticals, transportation, food delivery, digital merchants face in Mexico right now. Because unfortunately, there is a lack of data visibility between players. What the issuers see, what the merchants see, and what the networks see is completely different perspectives, because this fragmented approach that we were mentioning today has very clear implications when you make decisions based on data, right? As you don't have a clear data, you don't have clear visibility of what's happening, issuers blame the merchants, and merchants blame the issuers about acceptance rate, and then the ecosystem also doesn't help in the way it works in terms of fraud, right? my father always says, I'm afraid to buy online. And I tell my dad, you must not be afraid to buy online in Mexico, because all the risk is for the merchant. You're not going to lose. The issuer never lose in this equation, right? They wrote the rules, they wrote the ecosystem, and they put the issuer interests in the center of this equation. Now, as the market is evolving and developing more, we are putting the shopper at the center of this equation, and the shopper interests in terms of fraud prevention, in terms of secure transactions, are coming a more relevant discussion. So that is the biggest challenge that can only be tackled with data, can only be tackled with artificial intelligence, because as the volumes scale up and the merchants are operating millions of transactions a month, you cannot approach the problem in a manual way, in an old-fashioned way. You have to approach it in a more systematic, more scalable fashion. And that has to do a lot with data visibility for the merchant, data visibility for the issuer, and the implementation of new tools using the latest technology we have in the cell phones to authenticate users, for example, in order to make sure that a transaction is valid, right? And these opportunistic people taking advantage of a gray area between the distinction of valid shoppers and fraudsters become more and more reduced. What we want to reduce with data and the artificial intelligence is the spectra of this gray area, right? So you become more assertive as a merchant in reducing false positives. That means revenue loss because your shopper cannot buy, and false negatives that become a chargeback in the long run because it's a fraudster going through your e-commerce and getting the merchandise or the services, and later becoming your transaction a chargeback.
Great, thank you very much again, Eric and Alexander, for your time and your openness and frankness, and to share your insights and experience with us and all the participants here. Looking at the clock again, we're going to close off this part of today's session and move over to Miss Anis Castro. First, my apologies for running a little bit late, Anis. Thank you for hanging in there. For people who don't know Anis is leading operations of CM.com here in Mexico. And as you probably have seen in her resume, has tons of experience in this sector. So we're super thrilled you're here. As I said, leading operations for CM. CM is a communication platform that helps businesses to improve their communication with partners and potential customers. I'll leave it to that because I'm sure that Anis is more than willing to elaborate a little bit more on that. So I think we're gonna share the screen with you, Anis, and you're gonna, handle your presentation yourself. The floor is yours, Anis. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for your time. Let me share my screen. Microsoft. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, I think my. Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think my. My Mac is not ready to share, but anyway, I will start talking about our solution a little bit and how can we help.
Anis, we can put up your presentation as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, just give us a heads up if you want us to turn the page, of course. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
There we go.
Okay, first of all, you asked me to talk about challenges starting operations in Mexico. So yeah, what we did was hard because of the time. I mean, COVID, I had to say it, COVID made everything different. Hiring was a very tough job because, as you know, you cannot, it's not the same when you are not in front of each other, but we managed to do that very well. I think the important thing on this is, where the most stressful thing is relying on third parties, because we as a public company have standards and have different providers already approved, and we have to rely on them. Obviously, they are big firms, and sometimes their sense of urgency is not like the same we have. There are also business habits like, for example, the way Mexican people negotiate and do things, and then we have to translate that to the headquarters and things like that. And finally, language barriers. So I think that will be like the most important or the top 5 issues we could, faced when we started. We started to hire in 2020, so it was still with the pandemic going on. And right now we're hoping we can open offices, but we are not even sure when. So that's something interesting. So now you can go ahead, and I'm going to go straight to talk about who we are. Okay, we are CM.com. At the end of the presentation, I'll talk more about us. I would like to go straight forward to what we do. We are the #1 software for conversational commerce. Go ahead, please. Why is it that it is important to have this in mind, to understand conversational commerce? Well, because consumers want you to, you as a company to use their favorite channel to reach you. So in this case, right now in Mexico, it's obviously in WhatsApp, but the way they want to reach you is because they want to engage. And that is something very important for companies. Every company wants to have a relationship with their audience. And that's where we can help. We can help to reach, engage, convert, and retain those customers in what is our platform, in a secure one-stop omni-channel platform that will help you to communicate. And most of it, as your audience usually want to reach you at any time, anywhere, and as many times as they want. Well, what you will face is that you will have a lot of data, that it's very, very, very nice to have that data, but you will need to have that data also in a secure place and in a way that you can analyze and use it for improvements and keep improving all the time your customer journey. Go ahead, please. So that is what we do. We empower companies to create excellent conversational commerce in conversational customer experience in order to let them achieve a very important goal, that is monetize their, if you can go ahead, please, that is monetize their efforts in marketing, in sales, and also in customer service. So what is that we do? CM.com software is all in all the way, the marketing, sale, and customer service. Our platform, I think we will show you a little bit. We will have time to show something. Our platform has presence in every step of this customer journey. So what it's important to do is that you let people, you let your company get in touch with the audience, the people that want to buy in your site, and the people that want to do ask questions. For example, I was looking at Daniela's presentation, and there was something very important for me, that it's that when you're buying, you usually, sometimes you want more information. And what people want is sometimes to chat or to get that information fast. And if you have that channel available in every way you can, I mean, way meaning different communication channels like WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, email. As you saw, the audience is very different. We have all different ages and personalities, and there are people that would like to talk to you by email, and there's people that would like to talk to you by WhatsApp. WhatsApp has in Mexico like 81 million users right now, so it's huge for Mexico now. But what is important is to have your company available in any channel. And that's what we do. Our platform covers all those communication channels, anyone you can think about. And also you will have all the information coming from those two. Go ahead, please. Okay, we've divided our platform solutions into, one is mobile service cloud and the other one is mobile marketing cloud. Both of them have consumer data platform, as I told you before. This is very, very important. Sorry, well, this is very, very important for us to have this data also available in one single platform. The interesting thing that we do is that you have like different information from your Facebook business profile. You have different information that could come from WhatsApp and different information even from your website. So what we do is have one single profile. I mean, you will not have to use or keep changing platforms in order to understand all the information and have it available, or make segments or filters or things like that. You will have only one. The other important thing is that, for example, mobile service cloud will be more useful probably for service, as it sounds. I mean, for customer service. And obviously mobile marketing cloud will be more useful for marketing purposes when you are trying to communicate things and to your audience, or trying to promote some service or promote some products or things like that. What we do is convert or turn communications into conversations, and then conversations into conversions. That's what we want to help companies to achieve. Go ahead, please. Okay, this is the conversation growth model, the typical conversation growth model. When you have a specific need, and well, the conversation obviously starts for either one party or the other, one party being the consumer and the other part being the company, starting a conversation. And obviously it ends with the monetization of the efforts, as I told you before. So in all the model, during all the process of converting this customer, we have specific solutions inside our platform. As you can see, for customer contact, we have mobile service cloud. For conversational channels, we have the communications platform. We have even for when you go and automate or want to automate your conversation to make it more fluent, and mostly to make it more available to a lot of people that will be willing to chat with you. We have also a chatbot. It could be a scripted chatbot or an artificial intelligence chatbot. We also help you to personalize the conversation and engage with your customer in order to create a relationship. So, well, that's one thing again. And finally, this whole process and all the tools will help you to monetize your efforts at the end. And that's what any company would like to. Go ahead, please. Okay, some of the key benefits. I think I've already told you while talking about what we do. It's expand the sale. Why expand the sale? Well, you're not going to use only website to sell. You're not going to use only your application to sell. You can use the communication channels to sell, and you can sell inside the communication channel. As Adyen also were saying, people are using different payment methods, and you can use all those platforms to achieve a sale inside that new platform. So new platform for you. So in this communication channel, anyone like SMS, WhatsApp, you can have that happening. So that's something very interesting. You can also automate interactions very easily. Our platform, as you will be able to see in a short moment, our platform is very friendly. It's very intuitive, and you can create a workflow like just dragging and dropping. It's so very simple and so amazing, even for me, because I'm not technical and all that, and I have a lot of fun dragging and dropping and making a workflow for me just to work it. you can also establish a relationship, as I say, and that will help you accelerate the sale. Definitely, you will increase customer satisfaction because you will be there in their favorite channel and whenever they want. For you as a company, you will be able to gather, connect, and analyze all that data, and also understand more your customer every time. I mean, I know right now we have different metrics, we have a lot of information just in your website or in your application, but now you can also talk with your client, and that is something that is happening right now, and you should be able to explode it, all the information that comes from that. So having said that, go ahead, please. Okay, this is like a general example of what could be happening in our platform. You can connect existing data points to the customer data platform, like CRM, as I told you, website, if you have a mailing list, etc. Then you could enrich your profiles, as I've already told you. You can have all the information of your profiles, and then using forms and obviously maybe rewarding people or using chatbots, you can get more information to make that profiling more accurate. You can also set up workflows there, like, for example, what would you do when someone is left the cart abandoned and never bought? Or what would you do after someone purchased? Or what would you do if someone gives you a 5-star recognition of your sale? You can automate the action you are going to go through just by dragging and dropping, as I told you. Like, for example, if someone gives you a 5-star, you give him a 10% reward in the next shop. So, well, in the next purchase. So that is something very useful because you don't have to keep tracking everything. You will have to everything automate. And then you can also re-engage and increase retention. As I told you, you could do that too with a coupon or a cross sale, maybe depends on the kind of business. And you can also have a very good customer service after sales, like sending new offers, updates, and reminders and things like that. So go ahead, please. Okay, this is a part when I talk more about mobile service cloud. I would like Adrian to help me to show how it works. But before that, could you go to the part of YCM? It's like probably 8 slides after these ones. If you could, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Then the next one, please, because it's important for you to know who we are. Okay, we were founded 21 years ago. We are more than 600 employees, and we have like this global vision, but with local presence. We also have presence in more than 100 countries. And what is very, very important is that we're a very, very strong company in terms of processes and in terms of having things done. Because when you become a public company, you have to accomplish and fulfill a lot of standards and things like that. So that's one thing that's very, very important for us. And obviously, in terms of service, customer service on our side and support, we are always 24/7. So next, please. You will see our presence. That's something that it's important for you to know. And then I think that the last one will be, yeah, okay. That's what we help you to do. We help you outperform expectations. Now, if you could help me, Adrian, with we would like to show you how this can happen. And well, thank you.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Adrian. I work with Anis and Mateo on CM Mexico. If you don't mind letting me share screen, Meanwhile, let me talk about a little bit about me. I'm a technical consultant from Mexico. I help Anis and Mateo in everything related to our technical products, our technical part. I think I can now share my screen. There it goes. Thank you very much, guys. As Ennis was saying, the main point about CM is being a conversational platform for commerce. You gotta be ready to engage your customers across all the channels in an omni-channel way. This can be done via not only SMS, which was one of our main channels back in the days, but via WhatsApp, for example, for Latin America, RCS for the US, Telegram for Europe, also WhatsApp for Europe, Viber in Asia. You know, there are a couple still growing chat platforms where you should be present. Sorry? I don't know if there's... You can hear me, right, guys? You can see my screen? Yes? Thank you very much, guys. Let me close it right here. In the end, you gotta have the same platform for communicating with all your clients across all channels. One of the main things that CM currently does well, I can say that's one of our main strengths, is integrating all our apps so you can get the best out of them. Picture this example. You got your e-commerce website. You can be small, you can be big, you can be a medium company, and your client is just adding stuff to its cart. He wants a TV, I don't know, he wants some furniture, he wants a couple of stuff, 3, 4 stuff. In the end, you can track all this activity via your website. In the end, the client won't go forward with the sale. He will cancel, or he will just leave your e-commerce site. He will just leave an open cart with all its product in it, instead of just going to the last step and buying. So with some of our products, what you can do is measure all this activity during the whole process, since the client gets in the web page, since the client starts looking for product, which in the end help us to gather data. You know, everything about data is today. So you gotta be you can use CM's product to just track all the client's journey across all the steps he can follow until the last, or before the last step, which is purchasing or ending the sale. And if the client leaves the cart, he goes to another, maybe he thinks, hey, I'm gonna just check a couple of other websites in order to see if it's cheaper. Maybe later, maybe in the next payday, I don't know, he will leave his cart. You can trigger some alerts to the client. You can, for example, saying, hey, yeah, WhatsApp template message, hey, Adrian, we know you're thinking about buying that Samsung TV. Here's a 10% discount if you buy the TV of today or tomorrow. You get 24 hours. That's kind of a threat, but you can say in a polite way, hey, there's a coupon. It's available for the next 2 days, so we encourage you to finish your purchase. Plus, this is an extended warranty. You know, you can trigger a couple of alerts, a couple of activities in an automated way, which it can be tailor-made for each client's case, which is the most important part. You're gonna have to do it manually, and it can be tailor-made all across. Meanwhile, you gather data from this client. If the client in the end doesn't buy from you, or it buys from you, it doesn't really matter at all. You're gonna have a lot of data in order to engage with him later. And plus, the most important part, you can engage with him in a couple of other channels, you know, in an omni-channel way. I think that's one of the most interesting parts. All right, guys, just gonna show you quick. You're right here, you got a couple of different tools, your campaigns, CDP, email campaigns, pages, etc. Your campaigns right here. You can create a campaign, for example, engaging through clients via WhatsApp. It's quite easy. You can just go ahead, get a new campaign, establish this campaign. You can select your channel, like just right here, SMS or WhatsApp. You can get from your address book, from your database, a couple of contacts. You can even have custom fields in order to give a dynamic message, change the message for each client. You can track all this activity from your campaign via CDP, where I was telling you, you can create workflows which are triggered. Here you can, with a drag and drop, as Andy was saying, you can get a couple of triggers. If the client doesn't buy, send this message. If the client does buy, send this other message. If the client gets out of the web page, send another message to the other channels, Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram. You can do a couple of interesting stuff. If the client wants to speak with someone, you can get customer contact or your bot to help the client and make a quick guideline for him. You can get all your different channel conversations right here, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. Some places you can even do payments. You can help the client do a payment. For example, Apple Business Chat can manage to use and help us with Apple Pay. So it's pretty cool nowadays. For example, in Mexico, you can engage a client through Apple Business Chat, which were just a couple of official partners from Apple. And you can even finish the sale via Apple Business Chat via Apple Pay in Mexico, which from last 2 weeks ago was available, which is, I think, an interesting channel, something that currently cannot be done in WhatsApp. You cannot finish a sale via WhatsApp Pay, which only exists in Brazil and a couple of other places as a beta. But now you can do it in Apple Business Chat in Mexico. So that's what I want to leave to you. I think this should be quick. I just want to show you how easy, how drag and drop it is, how intuitive our tools are, and a couple of use cases. I don't know, Anis, if you have something else to say, or we're done right here.
Thank you. No, wait, I can share my screen again. Thank you. Well, I'll try. Well, now it says that I cannot share the screen, but now I have my preferences.
Yes, and it's my apologies for that. We will pull it up again, and sorry for being so blunt and Dutch and direct, but I would like to ask you to wrap it up a little bit quickly. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, finally, just what we can tell you is that our platform will help you to increase your sales, to improve your communication, to establish a relationship with your customer, and finally to grow as a business and have the good practices. That I think that's well what we all want as a business, and that's it. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much, Anis and Adrian, for your time as well and your extensive and comprehensive presentation. There were a couple of questions, but I've seen that most of them have been answered already in the chat. That's very useful also for time management. So looking back on the past 2 hours and 50 minutes, I think it's been a very interesting session, day one of this webinar. We've also seen a lot of activity on the chat and also people making appointments, one-on-one appointments in the matchmaking tool on the platform. So I keep encouraging all of you to do so for today and also tomorrow. I think this is it for today. A huge thank to all of our speakers. As mentioned at the start of the webinar, we have recorded the entire session and we will disseminate it through our social media. So if you want to take a cup of coffee and you can watch everything over again. In the meantime, for any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us here at the embassy or my colleagues from the business support office in Querétaro. All the other contact details from the participants are available on the platform as well, and they'll stay online for a full year, as I mentioned in the start. For the people who are participating tomorrow, day 2 of the webinar, we will send out a new link, a new Zoom link for tomorrow by the end of the day. Tomorrow we have a pretty nice lineup again of companies and organizations who are going to share their experience with us. Holland House Mexico, Linio, Cornershop, and last but not least, Ikea as well, who of course, as you all know, opened up a physical shop a couple of days ago as well. So it'll be interesting to hear from them as well, how that went. But I think that's it for today. Wishing you all a great evening in the Netherlands and a great day here in Mexico. And I hope to see you all again tomorrow. Thank you very much. And stay healthy, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.